Hi, welcome back to my channel, Biblio Obscura. My name is Kat, and I like to read dark and weird books, even better if they are queer or have translated elements. So, this is my January wrap-up, part 2. So, my January wrap-up, part 1, had 8 books that I read and 8 books that I DNF'd, and today I'm going to talk about my January wrap-up, part 2, which has 9 books that I finished and 4 DNFs. So, in total, from basically December 20th to the end of January, I read 17 books and DNF'd 12 books. So there's a lot of content, so I split the month. If you're interested in any of the stuff that I just showed you on the screen, click the part 1 video link down below. And without further ado, we're gonna get into part 2, starting off with the DNFs. So first up is Voice Like a Hyacinth by Mallory Pearson. This is like university students make a deal with a dark force in order to gain skills. Sounds great. However, I had an advanced audiobook of this and I just could tell from listening to the first 10 minutes there was something that really wasn't my cup of tea and I just really didn't want to continue on. So it's a DNF, unfortunately. Another DNF is Stay With Me by Lily X. This is a sapphic romance from my list. Last year I made a list of like 70 or 80 dark sapphic romances, and I have been working my way through in order to find good ones to recommend, because I read a ton of MM and I would love to have a ton of FF to recommend to people. Sadly, this is not one. This is about a galactic farmer who lives on this like closed off community where they don't really accept strangers, and she orders a robot to help her do like the housework part of the farm while she's in the fields, and she quickly realizes that the robot she ordered is actually a real woman who's on the run from something. And it sounds exactly up my alley, except for the fact that I really didn't like the author's writing style, and it's really a shame because Lily X was on that sapphic romances I want to read list like 5 or 6 times, and an author's writing style is their writing style. So I'm very nervous. I'm gonna try to read another one of hers probably later in the year, and if the writing style, maybe this is one of her first books, if it hasn't improved, I think I'm just gonna not read this author because the writing style isn't for me. So next we have one that I'm really torn up about. This is Opium by Aji. The illustrator is Junghyun. This is a Korean manhwa. This is set in the 1940s when Korea is still called Choson, and it's about a female doctor who is called from America back to Korea to take care of her friend who has been having like weird medical issues. And she goes to live with the family for a while as their live-in doctor, and as she does, she is pulled into like the medical world of their area and dark things that might be happening involving the opium trade. And someone she quickly comes into contact with is another doctor who works for the local like poor people's hospital in the area, whereas her friend's husband owns the rich hospital in the area. And she quickly falls in love and becomes infatuated with this other female doctor, and they sleep together, and this is like just the beginning. And it becomes very apparent that this is an insta-love situation. And okay, at the very beginning, I was willing to forgive because I was like, okay, maybe it's an insta-lust situation. Maybe she won't be completely blinded by her love, and maybe she'll be more critical and skeptical because she's a very intelligent doctor and very sharp in all other matters other than when it comes to this one female doctor, because she's blinded. And no, it's not. So I kept reading, and I think I'm about a quarter of the way through the series, and it is totally insta-love, and I hate insta-love. I really, really hate it. It ruins things for me. So I am DNFing this, and it's a shame because if it didn't have that, if that was more developed, I would have loved to recommend this to people. So it's really, this one's crushing. If you don't mind insta-love, I so highly recommend this. And the last DNF I want to talk about is Poisonous Kiss by Jagger Cole. So we're going to get more into Jagger Cole later in this video, so I'm not going to really get into this one specifically, but let me just say one fact, which is that Jagger Cole is a man. His bio says he's a husband and a dad writing MF dark romance, and it's actually really fucking good. It's really good. Unfortunately, this one is a DNF for me because this was the book I was reading when all of the drama went down. So if you don't know, I don't really want to harp on it because it's like, I would like it to be over, but an author's team threatened to sue me for slander, then threatened to dox me. It's documented in 2 videos. I'll leave them linked down below if you are interested. But unfortunately, Poisonous Kiss was the book I was reading when that all happened, and it just like completely torpedoed that book. So like I didn't want to read, I couldn't focus, and then by the time I wanted to go back, all of the like excitement about the romance was like dead. So that's not the book's fault at all, it's just wrong time. Now getting into the books I did finish, we're gonna go from my least favorite to my most favorite. We're gonna start out with Winter in Sokcho by Elisa Shua Dusapin, who is a French writer. This was written in French, translated into English, and it's about South Korea, so very interesting there. We're following a French woman who goes to work at a basically like backpacker hostel in Sokcho, South Korea. And Sokcho is a seaside town that gets a lot of influx in the summer for like beach season, and then it's pretty desolate the rest of the time. It's close to the North Korean border, and I used to live in Gangneung, which is just under Sokcho, so I have been to Sokcho a few times, and it's pretty much like it's described. It's says it's oozing winter and fish, Sokcho waited. That was Sokcho always waiting. For tourists, boats, men, spring. The person who's working at the hostel is kind of feeling completely like an outsider, and she doesn't really connect, and she's also completely like bored by her life. Enter a backpacker who is like an artist who comes to stay, and he is interested in learning about the real Korea, I guess you would say, and she agrees to like tour him around. But there was really nothing in this book, and I don't really understand the point of it. Unfortunately, like, it gets 2.5 stars because there was nothing like egregious, and I think that the setting was really well done. Like the coldness, the bleakness, the fishiness of it is like exactly how Sokcho like actually is, but I just don't understand the point, and it left me feeling like completely blah. Next up is one that I read because when I watched all of my booktube favorites videos of last year, this was said over and over and over again, to the point where I was like, I'm gonna love this. This is We Used to Live Here, and this one, no. I gave it 3 stars, and my review just says like, I believe the hype for what? Like, I really didn't get on with this. This is about a pair of sapphic house flippers, and they buy this house that's like out in the woods when one night someone knocks on the door, and it's a family, and they're like, we used to live here. Can I just show my kids this house real fast before we carry on? Because we're actually like moving out of the state now. And the woman is like, yeah, sure, I guess. Even though she doesn't want to let them in, she does let them in. And then the family never leaves. And it's less of a squatter situation and more of like a psychological horror. Something is going on with the house itself. I can see why people would like it, but I was listening to the audiobook, and I think maybe it's just me, but the audiobook, I was actually getting bored at some points, and then some of the big reveals I already assumed were like the facts of the book. So for me, it didn't really work. So I'm just like completely the odd person out on this book, but I did not love it, and it was not for me. Next up, we have one that is 3 stars because it's completely mixed bag. Some aspects of this I loved, and some I really didn't like. This is Letters from a Seducer by Hilda Hilst, who is a Brazilian author writing in Portuguese. So This is categorized as erotic fiction. This is for people who like Anai Nin, is that how you pronounce her name? Who wrote like Little Birds. The themes are sex, temptation, grossness of life, and vibes are like blasphemous, hilarious, and visceral. So we are following a brother who is writing to his sister about all of his sexcapades and trying to convince his sister to admit her own sexual depravity and or sleep with him. So if that premise sounds like something you hate from the jump, just don't bother. Don't bother, because it is explicit with a capital E, like explicit. But the thing is it's not just about that. It is so visceral and so gross. It swings back around to being freaking hilarious, okay? Like, there is another reviewer who said, where is it? Said, you probably drift 10 feet further from God every time this book makes you laugh. That was said by reviewer Kev Nichols, and I absolutely agree. Like, laughing in this book, I laughed my ass off the whole first half of this book, like to the point where I was sharing quotes with my husband as we were reading in bed, because I was like, this is so freaking funny. And I pulled a bunch of the quotes. They're on my Goodreads review, which I always leave my account down below and you can check it out. It's so freaking funny. Here, I'll read you some quotes. What a butt. Oh yeah, a lot of the quotes are so modern too, because I'm like, I could absolutely see someone quoting this, like on Instagram, on Twitter, like absolutely. Ready? Here we go. What a butt. I laid my face there and sometimes half tearful, half silly, said to those stuffed meats, if I had had a little pillow like yours, Lutetia, when I was a filthy, shabby kid, I would have been a poet. He just called her pillowy butt stuffed meats. I died laughing. And the thing is like, it's a woman writing a man who's writing a woman about sleeping with men and women. It, I think, is meant to be like absurdist and satirical and funny. And so like, if you're not gonna find that kind of stuff funny, don't read this. It will make you so mad. Also, if you're very religious, don't read this, because there's a ton of blasphemous stuff in here. Yeah, but like, okay, here's some more quotes. But the phallus in the pink in women, only in extremis. So like, he's talking about how much he doesn't want to sleep with women, and only in extremis, and that's in italics. It made me like cry laughing. Okay, sorry. We're gonna do one more quote and then I promise I'll be done. A woman's ass should serve as good steaks in case of an avalanche. Did you read about such people who ate their favorite frozen guy friends or girlfriends? Do you remember that other guy, a Japanese man, who literally ate his little Dutch lover? Only there was no avalanche. He even ate her at home. And after having spent some time in the asylum, when he got out, not sure why he got out, said, I was misunderstood. And how can you understand someone who literally eats someone without either avalanche or snow? I thought it was so funny. But okay, so the reason this gets 3 is like the first half is epistolary form and it's the letters. And if it had just been the letters, I think I would have given this like 4.25, because I was having a freaking amazing time with this. But then we switch and it's a completely different thing. And that part was so boring, I regretted reading it. So it's completely mixed, and that's why I'm giving it 3 stars, because I think for some people, if you find it hilarious like me, this would be an amazing use of your time. Yeah, it was great. And if you want to see even more quotes that are even more deranged, definitely check out my review on Goodreads. And the next book I want to talk about is Flames by Robbie Arnott. This is a magical realism work of Australian literature. My husband is going to teach this year. He is a high school teacher, and one of his classes he teaches is English. And we decided to buddy read it so that we could talk about like everything about it, like themes and deep dives and color analysis, name analysis. I'm not going to get into it in this video, but this was a 3-star read for me. So this is about 2 main people. We're following Charlotte, who is a young woman whose mother has just died. And in this family, when women die, some of them reanimate as pieces of the land or things that meant a lot to them, and they come back before burning into flames. So her mother just died and she came back covered in fronds of like the forest that she loves, and she like goes to see family members, and then she eventually bursts into flames and passes away. And when the brother Levi realizes that his sister Charlotte is also in danger of reanimating and then burning up if her body is put back into nature, he becomes obsessed with building her a coffin that nature can't touch. And once the sister finds out her brother is building her a coffin, she's like, absolutely not. And she sets off on a like cross-country road trip as she is tackling with her grief and also running away from whatever her brother's doing. So the premise is absolutely amazing. The first chapter was stunning. The first chapter is the mother's reanimation into like this palm frond body horror being. It's wonderful. And every chapter follows mostly a different point of view, which worked sometimes and didn't work other times. So some points of view I think should have just been deleted and cut out completely, and I think the story would have been stronger if some of the main points of views were repeated a little more to keep continuity. But this has so many magical realism elements that are really delightful, and I think his voice and his writing style is very unique. However, the reason that it didn't get higher has to do with the idea of women reanimating to finally have the final say in their life, and then the sister not having the final say in the book was a major flaw for me. So like the idea is to like center women's voices. That's what I thought it was going to be. And then it wasn't. It was told through like all different points of view. Like some women, yeah, but majority also, but also men and also animals and also like nature spirits, which is fine. But then in the end, it would have been so much better if like it had ended with like either a chorus of women's voices or the sister's voice, something where it works off of the idea that women are reanimating because they have stuff to say and they have stuff that's left over and they can't pass until they finally get to say what they want to say. Yeah, so this was beautiful in some ways and imperfect in others, and I would recommend it for people who like Australian fiction or like magical realism. The magical realism elements in this are really cool in my opinion. So now let's get into some 4 stars. I want to talk about, we're complete transition. We're going into a zombie apocalypse sapphic romance. Let's do this. This is Hearing Red by Nicole Mazer. Picture zombie apocalypse. And the interesting thing is that this book doesn't deal with setup or like what happened to cause it. It just is a zombie apocalypse. And I think that's fine because like, do we really need to go over it? Something happened and now people are zombies, okay? If you get bit, you turn into a zombie, and that is the premise. And we're following 2 people. One is Saf, who in the beginning of the story, she has suddenly, like, her dad has died, and she is kind of traveling with his group of friends who she doesn't love because they're starting to like raiding a little too much. They're starting to be trigger happy, and not just in a defensive way, but in an offensive way. And she's like, no, that's not what I'm about. So she has this plan to escape them. And when like a zombie fight breaks out, she does escape them and goes running with supplies. And that is how she runs into other people. And one of them is a sight impaired woman whose name is Maddie. and Maddie is like the snarkly, bubbly, sunshine character to Saf's very cynical, very closed-off character. And essentially they're gonna go on this zombie apocalypse walking word trip to get back to Maddie's family's compound, if that makes sense. And this is a slow burn. This is a sapphic romance. My main, reason why it's just a 4 for me is that the characters, in my opinion, were a bit poorly balanced. So Saf, she used to be a doctor. She is a mixed martial artist. She's a sharpshooter. And she was a university soccer player. So she's like this super smart, super athlete, super good fighting. And then you have Maddie, who is good with people, but that's really her only skill because she's like physically weak and sight impaired. Which, like, in a zombie apocalypse, I will say that her chapters were more scary than other chapters because she's just reporting things that she can't see, and it's a frickin' zombie apocalypse, which is really scary. But the other thing that I would say brought it down to a 4 is that for a zombie apocalypse book, there were surprisingly not that many zombie scenes. Like, we never got really up close with the zombies or, like, were really scared for the main characters that much because the zombies were kind of kept at a distance, which I think is such a disservice to the setting. You have a, like, sight-impaired main character, and if the zombies had gotten close or, like, if, like, more zombie content, I would have been scared out of my skin. Like, I would have been so scared, but I just never really felt that way because the author clearly really loved the 2 main characters, so they were never, in my opinion, in extreme peril. The author, like, quickly got them out of situations, which in my opinion, you should have let them suffer a little more because it would have been scarier to me. So yeah, this is for people who want a dark sapphic romance that is not insta-love, and I did give 4 stars. So yeah, this was, I'm gonna call it a win because I've been on the hunt for dark sapphic stuff, and this is a 4-star, so yay. Next, I'm gonna talk about Emperor of Lust, which is by Jagger Cole. So I am gonna get into Jagger Cole now. This is the first time that I think I have read a man writing dark MF romance that is really fucking good. This is really good, okay? This one got 4 stars, and then there's another one that got 4.25 stars coming later, and Jagger Cole, really good. So the premise is always like, man, unhinged, psychotic. Woman, very strong, and somehow ends up in an arranged marriage to that person through mafia circumstances. That is literally the blueprint that was across all 3 of the books I read. It's the same blueprint, which is why I don't know if I'll be reading Jagger Cole, like, extensively, because it's kind of the same thing printed over and over. Not saying it doesn't work well. It does work well, but I think I just need to spread them out more so that that part fades a little. So Emperor of Lust is set in Kyoto, Japan. The themes are obsession, possession, healing, and revenge. And the vibes are, like, sexy and also calculated. The 2 main characters, the female main character is Hana, also known as Kitsune, which is fox. So she is the sister in the Mori clan, who moonlights as a mafia money launderer named Kitsune. And then the other one is Damien, who is known as the, like, unhinged, tattooed psychopath of the Bratva. And the romance tropes are BDSM, dark mafia, touch her and die, tattoos, fake engagement / dating, and blackmail. The kinks in this are bondage and public toy play. And the aspect that I thought was the cutest is that he makes her origami cranes that are wrapped in little red string, like shibari bondage, and I thought that was so adorable. How cute. So This is for anyone who likes the manga, which is now turned into an anime, Yakuza Fiancé. If you know, you know. Although this has no cheating, unlike Yakuza Fiancé, which is one of the main reasons I myself am not a huge fan of that series, because I hate cheating. Anyway, this is really good. If that sounds good, then get ready, because I'm going to go into more depth in my top rated one. But yeah, if you're looking for a dark MF romance and you like mafia stuff and BDSM stuff, absolutely, this is for you. Next is my top 4-star, and this is Compass Rose by Anna Burke. And happy to report this is another sapphic win. So this is set in a dystopian water world where resources are slim and people are living off of basically scavenging wrecks and ocean stuff and underwater mines, because the land is completely like nuclear waste type situation. So in this book, we are following Compass Rose, that's her name, she goes by Rose, and she is known as a sea wolf. So basically, she was born with the ability to tell the directions even when she's underwater, like in a submarine. And so she is a navigator for the fleet. And in this world, I love it so much. Like, all of the top positions are women in power, and it's just great to see it. So the fleet admiral is a woman. Her best friend, who's an engineer, is a woman. And when the admiral says to her, I need you to go on the super secret spy mission and team up with this band of mercenaries headed by Miranda, who is a woman, I need you to go on their team and help them navigate the shallows in order to hunt down our resources and see what's happening with the pirate fleet, who's headed by a woman. So I need you to be a spy for us and see what's happening. So she goes and joins the mercenary ship, and things go from there. So this is between Compass Rose and Miranda, the mercenary like captain, and the world is so cool in this, like so cool. Like, you're on ships, submarines, sunken mines, wrecks. There's like naval battles, there's like inner ship intrigue and politics, and this is really good. This is really good. The reason I got a 4 though is because it did have a tiny bit of soggy middle syndrome where things started to stall out a tiny bit. And also there was a little aspect of cheating, which, like, literally why? Please. Like I said in the last book, I freaking hate cheating aspects. And like, yeah, without that, I don't know, this would have been really a lot higher. But yeah, this is another sapphic win, and if that sounds good to you, definitely check it out. It's a duology, so I will be reading the second one hopefully this year. I'm gonna see if my library has it, and yeah, definitely, if you like sapphic, pirate, engineer, mercenary, fleet admirals, this is for you. Okay, now we are into my top 2 of this video, both 4.25 stars. Penultimate is The Broposal by Sonora Reyes, who is a non-binary author of color writing from the US. And I just want to put in here that the themes in this book are so relevant and so important because, as we all know, recently the US president has rolled back a lot of things and put a lot of people in danger. So my review says, in late January 2025, the US president ordered new powers to allow ICE officers to raid churches, schools, and hospitals, as well as directed federal law enforcement officials to investigate and potentially prosecute local officials who interfere with deportation efforts. That's a quote from the New York Times. This book deals with ICE and deportation threats, but this is ultimately a book that is celebrating friendship, family, and love, and I think it is a great book in these dark dystopian times. So let's get into it. Okay, my battery died, so I think I was getting into what The Broposal is about. So The Broposal is about 2 childhood best friends. So we have Kenny, who is newly single and he is trying to learn about himself again and also escape his abusive ex-girlfriend. And he is 23 years old, bisexual, and Mexican American. And then the other friend is Han for Alejandro, and he is not only Kenny's best friend but also his roommate, and he is undocumented and needs a way to stay in the US after he is fired from his job. And he is autistic, Mexican, and the same age, 23 years old. And when Kenny figures out what has been going on and the threat of deportation to Han, he says, well, why don't you just use me and marry me, and then we can get you like official status. And it hinges on that aspect, and the way that these characters were written made me want to cry because they are so soft to each other and they are so perfect together that it just made me like want to like squeeze. It's like cute aggression. Like I was just like, oh, you're so meant to be together. I love you guys so much. And there are a lot of other elements in this, like blackmail and abusive exes. Again, my review covers all of the trigger warnings, but the main thing I want to focus on here is just like the beauty of them together. And like Han is like, I don't want you to wreck your life by marrying me. And so he refuses his proposal, but then he's proposed to over and over and over again. And there's just something about multiple proposal scenes that it got me like right in the heart. Like I was like, oh my God, I love them so much. And also just like I said, the way, let me read some quotes to illustrate, okay? So it says, if fighting was proof of love, then she loved me more than anyone. But what proof was there for Han? Luna curled up around my feet. Han left her with me whenever I was anxious, which I almost always was. I looked around and noticed he'd already done my dirty dishes. He never guilted or judged me when my executive dysfunction caused him more work. He just did it to make things easier on me. Everywhere I looked, the evidence was there. So like when he can't function, Han like does his dishes, cleans up for him, leaves his own dog with him to help him feel less anxious. I'm like, oh my God, I love you guys. There's this other one though for Kenny. It says, to this day, Kenny never let me walk on the side closest to traffic. I didn't understand then, but now it made sense. He was still protecting me. And then another one from Kenny's point of view, I always let Han go up the stairs first since I was afraid it'd be too much on his ankle and I wanted to be able to catch him if he fell. If you are looking for a romance, a contemporary romance that has a few darker like real life elements, but the two main leads are so soft and sweet towards each other, I would so highly recommend this to you. And the last book I want to talk about is a departure because it's a really dark, gritty romance. And this is MF, written by a man, which is so shocking to me. Like, if you read dark romance that is actually really good and written by a man, please let me know down below. I would love recommendations. So we're gonna get into this one, Emperor of Havoc, which is Memento Mori number 4. So I don't read in order for romances because, no, I don't. I just picked the one that sounds the most interesting, which you might think is unhinged wild behavior, and it probably is. So this is absolutely a dark romance. It's set in Tokyo. The themes are family, loyalty, and kink. And the vibes are hot, tense, and absolutely freaky deaky. Like, there were some scenes in this where I was like, babes, I'm glad you're having a great time. I'm so glad that you're enjoying that and everything is consensual here. I'm just a little scared and nervous, but I'm glad you're having a good time. So that was how I felt. So the two characters are, the female main character is Katerina, who's also known, like her nickname is like Snowflake. She is selectively mute and the heiress to the Ishida Mafia empire. And she does use sign language throughout the like whole entire book. And the male main character is Takeshi, who's also known as Kaiju, which is like monster in Japanese. He's known as like the tattooed psychopathic wild card of the Mori brothers. Every single male main character, it seems like, in the series is the unhinged wild card. If they're all the unhinged wild card, I don't know how that works realistically, but in the terms of a standalone novel, I'm absolutely here for it. I love that. So the romance tropes are BDSM, dark mafia, deadly, ex-deadlier, which I didn't know was a trope until I watched someone else say it, and I was like, oh, I love that. We have arranged / fake marriage, touch her and die, and also tattoos. So the premise starts where Katarina signs up for Club Venom, which is an extreme BDSM matching service, and she signs up under, I think it's the nickname Snowflake, and she's matched with Kaiju, who shares her preferences. After they meet for the first time, Kaiju immediately like knows who she is, and he goes to her family with that family's enemy's head in like a lunchbox and is like, here's your enemy's head, I want to marry Katarina. And things go from there, and I'm like, oh my god, this is great, this is great. And some of the stuff that I really, really loved is like Katarina, so she uses sign language, she's selectively mute, she uses sign language like the whole book. She is really deadly, and she is a master of like martial arts styles, which she uses all the time throughout the book. Which I love, because often they're like, she's a deadly assassin, and then she never uses her skills, never assassins in the book. And she also has a pet tiger cub, which is so great. I love that. And they absolutely like match each other's freaks. So on the light end, they go on like motorcycle racing dates. On the darker end, they're doing some freaky deaky shit that I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe, I can't look, but I'm looking. But I'm really glad you guys are into the same thing. They have such specific kinks, and they met on a site which matches people with exact same kinks, so they're on the exact same level, and they're down. And I'm like, I'm really happy for you guys. It's not my thing, but I'm so happy for you guys. The reason this gets 4.25 and not higher is like, in the end, there's a bit of a cliche moment, and then also I did guess the big reveal at the end, like very early on. But this is a wild ride. If you like dark romance, especially mafia or kinky romance, oh my god, sink your teeth into this, because holy cannoli! It was great. So anyway, yeah, I'm gonna stop fangirling about this, and I will see you in another video soon. Let me know what you're reading down below, and I will see you in another video soon. Lots of love. Bye!